Welcome back to the Dirt Path podcast. Have you ever felt like you have that voice in the back of your head that just always seems to be saying that it wants more freedom? You want to travel. You want to be a digital nomad like me. You want just more hours in the day to spend with your kids. Whatever that is, you just don't have the freedom that you've wanted in your life. And maybe you even listened to my episode a few back where I detailed how I went as an electrical engineer in a very traditional industry to start a nomad in that very same job. And you listened to that and maybe you felt inspired by that, but you just were like, Grayson, I can't do that with my job. My job requires me to be in person or whatever it is for you. And you thought, well, that's great, but I can't do that. But you've always felt that voice in the back of your head and you just don't know how to take that leap to bridge the gap to get to the freedom that you want. Maybe you've had ideas on certain businesses to start, but you don't know necessarily how to start it. Or you really just have no idea of anything of like what you would do for a full-time business to attain that freedom. Well, if that at all sounds like you, today's podcast is perfect because today's trailblazer is Nick Wharton. Many, many years ago, Nick was working on oil rigs back in Canada. And now for over 17 years, him and his partner, Dariece, have lived all over the world after crafting a business centered around giving them the freedom that they were looking for. As you'll hear in Nick's story, Nick and Dariece started Goats on the Road and started nomading way back in 2008. Started out as a travel blog, has changed a few different times. And now they help people leave their unaligned 9-to-5 to create a business, all centered around building them the freedom that they're craving. Now, I've traveled now for almost 5 years, and I've met many, many nomads that I've been inspired by, but I can really tell you that nobody is more qualified than Nick and Dariece on this topic. As I said, they've been nomading for 17 years, which is absolutely crazy. But they've also had one thing that I think is super, super important, which you'll hear on today's podcast, which is their adaptability. As I said, they've changed the business multiple different times because they've had to work through numerous different challenges. But the one thing that's always kept them going is their why, wanting to have a life based on freedom. Now, I met Nick and Dariece a few years ago in one of my favorite spots to nomad, Bansko, Bulgaria. And really this last year, we got a lot closer and having a lot more overlap in a few different spots, including Bansko again and Merida, Mexico, where we recorded the podcast. And especially now with where I'm at, which is creating a business to maintain or even build on the freedom that I had before, which I created as a 9-to-5er. I've been continually inspired and in awe by Nick and Dariece, their story and their wisdom that they have to share. And I'm so excited to be sharing that with you today as well. Now, one final editing note before we jump in. While this is the last podcast that we are releasing from Merida, this was actually the first one that I recorded. And unfortunately, I didn't have the time to find the camera setup so we could, like normal, have each camera on ourselves. So it's just a single wide shot today, but I still encourage you to watch the video version either on Spotify or YouTube, because as you'll see, we had a lot of joy just chatting with each other and hearing Nick's story. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe or hit that follow button wherever you are watching that podcast, as it really helps support the show. All right, let's go ahead and take a walk with Nick.
Should we do a little breath work before we start?
Oh, we could. Do you have one for us? The priming one was pretty good. And like the arm movements, though, I was definitely getting a bit tired.
Yeah. You'll get really big triceps after you start doing that for a while.
Triceps, little shoulders. I feel like it was a good, like full body.
Yeah, it's
type
good
of
full
thing.
upper body.
So I want to get to a lot today. Thank you for coming on. Again, Nick, I wanted to have both you and Dariece on, but still very early on with the setup. Very much trying to just figure out the most basics.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll have you guys both on or just her next time. But right now we're in Merida. You guys are about your last day here. We're here supporting a friend after a long journey for him. You guys have been here before a couple times.
Yeah. Quick trips.
Right. It was always quick trips. It wasn't ever like a long stay or anything.
No, we lived in Playa del Carmen, but we only visited here for like a week max, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're going back to Bulgaria, the home base for now.
Yeah.
And Plovdiv.
Yeah. Tomorrow. Yeah.
And you guys have been traveling for a while. Any like big tips you do for your long haul flights?
When there's jet lag involved, the big tip is I try to land in like the afternoon at like 4 p.m.
Okay.
So that, you're always tired after a plane. So if
Yeah.
the shorter amount of time that you have to kind of keep yourself awake off the plane, that's my biggest thing. Just land in the afternoon, try to stay up for those like 5 hours. And actually bigger tip would just be take business class so you can sleep on the plane, but I can't do that all the time.
Well, maybe at the end, after somebody listens, they hear some tips, or maybe they hire you guys. Then they're ballers enough to take the business class.
Yeah.
But you guys are pro travelers. You guys have been doing this for a long, long time. When did you guys start? Again, I know we were talking about the other day.
2008 was the first we left Canada. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've been doing it for a decent amount of time when I started 2021. And that was kind of the new wave of nomads, right? After COVID, kind of all the 9-to-5ers are now having more freedom with it. But before, when you guys were out, so I know we talked the other day about like the 4-hour work week. That was around 2007. So you guys, I think, were in that first wave of, people really didn't even hear of you guys back then. It wasn't a big thing, but there was a lot of people traveling while working remotely. How did it start for you guys?
Yeah, I think for us, we didn't read the 4-hour work week until years later. So that wasn't really a catalyst for us leaving. But what we did was basically, I just had a really shitty day at work and I was like, basically went home and I was pissed off and I started Googling around, like, how do people backpack? Like, what is this term backpacking?
Okay.
And back then, like that first trip, it wasn't even thinking about how could we make money and keep this going forever. It was like, how can we quit these jobs for a year? Because to us at that time, gap year was like not even a thing. Nobody in Canada does gap year. But we were like, we've heard of people going traveling for 6 months or a year. So like, how do we do it? And so I think I just went home and was Googling around, how do I do that after a really shitty day at work? And then Dariece came home from her shift and she walked in the door and I was all hyped up. And I'm like, if you could travel anywhere for a year, where would it be? And she was like, Southeast Asia. And I'm like, let's do it. And like, from that minute, everything changed. Like she was like, yes, of course, let's do it. And then from that minute, everything changed. And it was really about, how do we save money? How do we get going on this trip? And so we sold our house, we sold our car, we sold a bunch of our stuff. We had a house in Calgary, downtown Calgary. And then I worked overtime for like the remaining 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
And we did all that. Like we sold the house, sold the car, packed all the stuff up, and we were gone within about 8 months after making that decision. And we had flown to Southeast Asia.
Wow.
And so there wasn't so much of a 4-hour work week inspiration. It was really just the inspiration of this job sucks and how do we figure out something different?
And is it something, I know you had that day, right? Is it something you had been had on the mind for a while? Or is it just, you know what, I need to get out of this and let's kind of go 0 to 100?
Yeah. Travel hadn't been on my mind before that much. So to back up a little bit, Dariece and I had just started dating about a year before that day of deciding to quit. And a few months into our relationship, we went on a trip down here to Mexico, actually to Tulum, but not in Tulum, like one of those all-inclusive resorts outside of Tulum. And we did like a ATV trip around, like from the resort, I think. It was like really touristy trip, but it went through this little village of like families, and there was like a really local Mexican village, and all these kids like ran out after the ATVs. And we're like, oh, this is so cool. They ran out and they were like, probably asking for money or whatever. But we had to like zoom through. Basically, the tour was like, let's keep going. I'm like, oh, Dariece and I are like, let's stay. Like, this is cool. Let's go meet these kids and like talk to them and meet the family. And it was kind of like a microcosm for our entire life, or like an analogy for our life. At that time, it was like, we don't have time to slow down. We don't have time to enjoy anything. But basically that trip, including that one experience, really put that in my mind. Like, okay, maybe one day I'd like to do this travel thing. Because that was the first time I'd left Canada, aside from Disneyland when I was like 8 with my parents. And so after that, I went home. That seed was planted in my mind. And so then it only took one shitty day at work, like maybe a few months later, to be like, okay. And that's what the initial like trigger was.
Wow. I feel like, and you guys, we're going to get to what you guys are doing now, but I think that is so common, or not very common, in the fact that it takes people a lot of those moments to act on it. But just in the few podcasts and stuff I've done so far, and just talking with people that I've nomaded, the quicker you do it, like, the better. Very few people have I chatted with that like they took this risk or something like that, and it didn't pay off, at least in some respect, like that you can't go back to your thing before, like the gap you started out with, right? But I feel like that's such a kind of a stopping point for people of it, just like, oh wait, like maybe the next time. It's not the seeds planted and then this one bad day at work, let's go. So I think that's really, really cool. And it speaks to a lot of your guys' is just adaptability and maybe confidence in yourselves too, to make it work.
Yeah, thanks. I think it also speaks to how shitty my jobs were in Canada because a bad day at work, like
what were you doing? Can I ask?
So first I worked on the oil rigs in Canada. So I didn't go to college or anything, like left my hometown after high school because in Canada and certain parts of the US, you can like go and work on the oil rigs and make a bunch of money. So I had a bunch of debt by the time I was 20, went and worked on the oil rigs, really shitty job, but I only did it for a year. And then after that, I got a job at a printing press, printing on plastic bags in Calgary. So I didn't have to like be away for 2 weeks. The pay was good, but it was just garbage work. And so, you're in a plant, graveyard shift overnight, smelling fumes, sweating. It got to be like 43 degrees, like 108 Fahrenheit or something. In the summer, it was brutal. So it was an easy thing. Like
maybe a bigger push.
Yeah, bigger push. Yeah, like one bad day is enough in
Mm-hmm.
some cases. But yeah, I think you're right. Like a lot of people just keep delaying it.
Yeah.
And it's like they just don't go for it. And it's harder to do now. Like if I was to do that now as a 41-year-old, that'd be slower. But when I was 20 something, it was like, yeah, like there's not that many commitments. I have a good job. We had the house. We bought a house. So that was one.
That is one for sure.
But it was like, I don't know. You're just more flexible when you're younger, but you still got to do it.
Yeah. And so you and Dariece take off doing the gap year.
Yeah.
At what point does that change for, we're just going to do this for a gap year and maybe take a breath in life to, we want to do this full time. We want to travel full time. And how do we work remotely?
I'd say like the minute we landed, we were like, I think in my memory, the minute we landed, everything changed.
Okay.
And it was like, we'd done so much planning to get to that point too. Like when I was working, I'd be like reading Lonely Planets, like speak without my boss seeing and stuff, like trying to find out what to do.
So you still had a little bit of runway before you made that decision when you left?
Yeah. So it was like 8 months from the time that we something like 8 months. Like, don't quote me because it's probably on our blog somewhere that it's 7 and then, but something around there. And then, so then when we said that, we started saving our money. We had time to sell the house, sell the car. But then when we were in Asia, it didn't take long before we're like, okay, we don't want to do our job back in Canada anymore. And I don't know when we started thinking about making money. I think it was a few months in, like we started meeting people who were like, oh yeah, we teach English or we're woofing, these different like volunteer jobs that people were doing.
Yeah.
And so at that point we were like, okay, we're going to figure this out. Yeah.
How much of a factor do you think that is for people of just being around other entrepreneurs to getting new ideas?
Yeah, I think it's really big. I think it's something we didn't do for so many years ourselves. Like we never really stuck to these digital nomad hotspots and stuff. And we have friends that do. We were more about like, where can we go where there's nobody? Like just more random places. Like we did the stands before anyone had been to like Central Asia, before anyone. There was like very few people going there.
Okay.
Did Mongolia back like in 2010 or something like that, like a long time ago. So we were more about that kind of thing. Like, where do we go that's way off track? But then as we built the business, to your point, we started realizing like, okay, if we spend some time in places like Chiang Mai, now it's like Chiang Mai, Lisbon, Playa del Carmen, Bansko in Bulgaria, like a few of these real hotspots that you know of.
Right.
It's like, oh, you can get this like inspiration from other entrepreneurs and ideas.
I think one of my first kind of big moments of that, my fourth month of traveling. So my first three, I was traveling with my other best friend. So we kind of just were with each other the whole time, didn't try to find other nomads and everything.
Yeah.
My fourth month, I went to Bulgaria. I was in Varna and went to my first ever co-working space. And I very vividly remember, like, there's all these entrepreneurs in this co-working space. And keep in mind, I was an electrical engineer still at the time for my company. Mm-hmm. And I had worked in the office, basically, most of my career before. And the conversations you have in the office in an engineering world, maybe a bit more bland, right? And just you're kind of focused on your life. But I remember vividly taking off my headphones or just peeling back one of the headphones to listen to some of these conversations that were going on, right? It was, even to this day, it was one of the spaces that was just so collaborative, right? I remember there was one girl that had her own business on, I think, helping other women with their makeup or something like this, like an esthetician or, that's definitely not the word, but helping with makeup and like their looks or something like this. And then another guy owed ad agency, right? And some other guy did, I think, fitness. And so they would just be having all these conversations about their entrepreneur journey. And, you're doing everything, or if you have a couple employees, and there's such new conversations for me.
Yeah.
And after that moment, that's why I still, to this day, I mean, we were working in a co-working space a couple months ago in Bansko. I love those because even just hearing those conversations, it's really helped me, I think, make the decision a couple months ago when I was told I was going to be, that position was ending, but they wanted me to return to engineering. Mm-hmm. Why I chose not to is because I had that confidence of I can do this. And I found just my world has been opened, I think, from being around these entrepreneurs, and that you can kind of feel that energy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is inspiring. We still hear people that have different jobs and different businesses, and I get so amped up about it, like different things that people have figured out how to do. Yeah, so I think, but I mean, when we started, there was none of those conversations happening at all. So yeah. I wish at the time, because it would have probably like catapulted us into it a little faster. Mm-hmm. But I just clicked a button. I wouldn't mess anything up. But
it's just for your listening.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, like when we started, there was no word for digital nomad at the time.
Right.
Nobody worked remote. And because this is 2008, 2009, mm-hmm. There wasn't even iPhones, right? So the conversations weren't happening in co-working spaces that didn't exist. Okay. There were internet cafes where you had to go in and there's just chairs and you had to pay for internet by the hour.
Wow.
And that's when like we first had the spark to do it, because Dariece read a blog. We were in India, like traveling around, and Dariece read a blog. We went into an internet cafe. We used to go email our families, like not nearly often enough, maybe like once every 3 months or 2 months, because we didn't want to spend the money on the internet cafe. But one of those periods where we go in to like message our families, and Dariece randomly like started looking up again how to make money online, or just how to make money for travel. There wasn't even that many people doing it online. And then she came across this blog post by a guy named Johnny Ward, One Step Forward. Shout out to Johnny. Now a good friend of ours. But he had written this blog post way back then. And he's like, I'm traveling around the world. I'm writing blog posts and I'm making, I don't remember what the original post was, because I think he updated it as his income went up, but it might have been like $1,500 or $2,000 a month US. And at that time we were living off of $1,500 a month Canadian. So we're like, oh, if we could do that, if we could create this blog and build a brand, then we could do what this guy's doing and travel around from writing and taking photos. It just seemed, it blew our minds. So Dariece read this post, comes and gets me, brings me over. She's like, look at this guy, look what he's doing. We read it. And then she says, you have to figure out how to build a website. And I'm like, okay, I agree, but it seems like a huge undertaking. And really, Johnny Ward, that blog post that was put up, sparked our whole idea of, wait a minute, we don't have to maybe always be trying to teach English overseas or try to be volunteering or working for other people still, there was this option for this remote business, which included creativity and the things we love, travel. And that was the spark. And so that was the only conversation that I was hearing around me. Like I didn't just take my headphones off in that case, but that sparked it. And then a few months later, from a beach hut in Koh Phangan, Thailand. I think it was Koh Phangan.
Okay.
We started Goats on the Road, the first blog that we ever had in business.
Yeah. Epic name. Can you walk us through the origin of Goats on the Road?
So it's not that epic from a marketing standpoint, but what's good about it is it's kind of memorable. But
yeah,
it was originally, so we kind of already had a blog. There was this thing back in the day called, maybe it's still around, travelblog.org. It was this really clunky thing where you basically put your blog post on a website and then we just did it for our families. So this is before we had read Johnny Board's post and thought of it as a business. We were doing this just for our families.
Right.
And we called that one Goats on the Road. And it was, instead of us having to email every person individually and spend all that extra money at the internet cafe, we put it on this website and then we just gave them the link and we're like, go check it out. It's like travelblog.org/goats on the road. And then when we read that post from One Step Forward, Johnny Ward, we were like, oh, we'll just use that same name, like whatever. And we didn't know, we wanted to make money from it, but it was such a foreign concept that we were like, well, this will be easy for our family. They'll know. We just went from travelblog./goats on the road to goatsontheroad.com.
Okay.
So we just kept that. But the reason was, for the first time story, that was a long around the route, was because we were traveling to Southeast Asia. That's all we had done at that point. And there's always goats on the road everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And Dariece and I call each other goat we call each other goaty as like a pet name. This is TMI, but this is how it came about. So that's how it came about. Like, there's always goats on the road. We're goats. We're on the road.
Yeah.
That's it.
And how long for the Goats on the Road journey did it take before it was like, oh, this is going to be our moneymaker? And did it really take off into something that kind of became your full-time thing?
Well, okay. It didn't take off in like a rocket ship, let's say, for
Really?
sure. It was slow. So we worked on it from Koh Samui for like a month. I think or Koh Phangan, sorry, a month we lived there, worked on it that whole time. Then we went to China and we were traveling around for a month. And then we got jobs in China teaching English for a year. And that's when we started spending some time on it. So we were like 5 months into it when I almost quit because we had put all this time in. We didn't know how to build the website. So that was a whole tech struggle. Back then, you didn't just have it was WordPress, but it just wasn't easy. So huge tech struggle. Spent all this time working on it. Lots of time. It was maybe 15 hours a week max, but it felt like a lot.
Just on the website.
Just on the website. There's no social media back then. Like, there's Facebook. I don't think Instagram existed. So you just had to have Facebook. Maybe it was Twitter or something. But we put all this work into it anyway. And there was nobody visiting the site after maybe 5 months. And then we were already teaching English and making money from that. And I was like, you know what? I think we can just teach English and stay on the road and it'll be fine for me. It would be great to have this blog, but nobody except for that one random Irish dude is making money from it. So are we going to make any money? And so I gave up basically. And then Dariece kept doing it. She kept at it for another couple months. And then she brought me I remember we were like in China in the kitchen in our apartment. She brought me and she's like, look. And for some reason, like 200 people had visited the site the day before. We had like our biggest day ever.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, 200 people? Like, that's crazy. Still not making any money at all.
Yeah.
But just like 200 people. So then that got me back into it. And so it was I think it was almost a year, maybe 8 or 9 months before we made any money at all. And the way we made money is that we created a store on our website and we sold like calendars and I think t-shirts and random little trinkets, keychains and stuff with our photos on them from travels. And then we have a really supportive family. So my brother bought like 10 calendars. We made my mom bought a bunch of stuff, I don't even know if hardly any like other people bought stuff, but our family did. We made like few $100 that month, and that kept us going again.
Okay.
But to answer your question in a long way is, it was probably, so over a year, because we were in China for the entire year-long contract to finish teaching English in China. And then near the end, so probably around 2 months before we left, this other guy, one of the OG bloggers, Sam from Nomadic Samuel, back in the day, he was like, we were online friends. And so he got me in this group, in a Facebook group, and they used to share advertisers in there, like contacts for advertisers. And so basically these advertisers would pay us to like put their ads on our site. And then from that, we started making like a couple $100 from this ad, a couple $100 from this ad. And that's when it started to kind of make money, but it wasn't even enough to pay for our travels. To pay for our travels, we needed $1,500 a month. I think we would have been about a year and a half into it. And then another year before it got to like 5K months, until it started being, and I think when it was at 5K months, we started to be like, oh, okay, this is actually going to be something. And by then other people were also starting to make money from their blogs. And that's about when it was. So it was slow for us. We didn't have any info. We didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So it took a while.
I've heard of very few people that started it and it was just like day one, especially on a blog.
Yeah.
I mean, you would know way better than I do, but it's one of those, it just takes a lot of time to build up something.
I think any business, especially online, ones that are so good, like having your own personal brand is the best job ever. You just get to share what you know with the world or what you love. If it was so easy, everybody would do it. Like your mom would have like the sickest travel blog and like, it'd be like everybody. But because it takes longer than you expect, people quit. And luckily Dariece didn't. So we kept at it. Yeah.
Okay. Good on Dariece. Good on Dariece.
Yeah.
And you guys did that for a while. I mean, you guys had a very, very successful blog. It's still up, correct?
It's still up. Yeah.
At one point you switched into, was it helping other people with blogs?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty early on. We wrote the travel blog as a budget backpacker blog. And then right around the time we started doing social media, we realized that this job was awesome, just sharing what we knew online. And so we started teaching other people how to do that. We changed the blog's tagline from, it used to be goats on the road, keep your life on your back and get more back from your life. And it was like strictly travel blog, like blogging or strictly traveling with a backpack and being budget as we were trying to spend nothing. And then it turned from that to turn travel into a lifestyle.
Okay.
And that was early on, maybe only like 2 years into the whole thing. And it was because we really felt like people were watching us and seeing what we're doing. And they're emailing us all the time and saying, how are you making money from this? Like, how are you doing that? And getting really inspired, exactly like we were with Johnny Ward. So then we wanted to share that and we got really excited about it. And so the whole blog and all the content moved towards like, what are the travel jobs you can do on the road? What are the things you can do to make money? And then because we had tried a bunch of things, we taught English, we volunteered, bartended, volunteered, all this stuff. So then we basically thought, well, what's the one thing we know best is how to build travel blogs and how to build a personal brand. So we started helping people start their own blogs and social medias and like brands, basically.
Okay. And that was only 2 years into it. So that's pretty quick.
Maybe 2 or 3 years in, we changed the tagline and all the blog content went to that.
Okay.
But then the first course that we gave away for free actually was a travel blogging course. Maybe that was like 5 years into it or something. Basically we gave it for free for anyone who started their website through the partner we were using because we got like a commission. We were just open about it. We said, hey, we get a bit of money, so you get this whole course for free. And yeah, that's how it started.
And so you guys were kind of still doing the main blog and then kind of turning it into that and helping people while still nomading, traveling the world. For you guys, how long did it take to kind of find that balance between traveling versus living and working? Did that take a while? Because I know some nomads, they struggle with that, at least at the beginning, but I'm curious, like for you guys.
Maybe I'll come back on the podcast in like a couple of years and tell you if you figured it out yet. Because we have So a lot of people who run personal brands online, particularly like what we're doing now with social media, they get burnt out because they work like too many hours and they don't have a balance that way. Dariece and I have had the opposite problem.
Okay.
We were so used to the olden days of blogging when you could just do everything passive and like write blog posts and they would rank for years and you'd make money from ads and all this stuff and affiliates. And so we didn't work at all for so many years and like hardly at all. We were working maybe on average 10 or 15 hours a week and making more than we were from our jobs in Canada for sure. Wow. And so we got spoiled and we went to work not enough. And so our work-life balance is now like, we want to actually have an impact. The blog showing people the jobs they can get overseas, that was impactful, but a lot of the blog was still travel related too. So it was still places to visit, things to see and do, all the SEO stuff. And so when you want to have an impact and you want to build a real sustainable business that's future proof, you have to spend more time on it.
Sure.
And so now our challenge with the balance is while we're traveling and like here visiting our friend with you guys and while we're doing all this, how do we carve out time to still work on the business and to still help the clients and stuff? So we've gotten much better at it in the last couple of years. Like we actually do pretty well now. But it's still not totally figured out. I don't know if you ever master the balance.
Yeah.
But we haven't.
I feel like it's a lot harder for entrepreneurs as well, right? You create your own schedule, especially for, people like you guys where it's a very, very flexible business and hours, especially in the blogging. Now with the coaching, but maybe a tiny bit less so. But, for me, when I started out, it was still a 9 to 5, very flexible one, but that helped me a lot with creating my kind of routine for success where I've developed some certain habits. So I've helped Paige is, she's now an entrepreneur and doing that with her routine. But as I'm kind of starting my journey, I'm almost like, oh, wow, I can see very quickly how if you're not really focused on building that routine, it can definitely get out of hand, especially while traveling. And it's hard you can slip out of that very quickly because there's so many kind of temptations and everything there. And it's also pendulum, right? Of like, you guys maybe felt like you worked too much for a while in the old jobs. And then I was like, let me take the life back. And I think me and Paige are a little bit in that too, but probably needing to switch to the other side, like put some more sweat equity in some things, with the podcast as well as Paige and her business and helping her with that. But it's always kind of striving towards that balance for you in the moment, right?
Yeah, I think that's the key word too, like for you, because we have friends who are super successful and they really hustle. They're really good at being driven and focused and motivated, and they will carve out 2 years of their life to be like, we're going to build this thing. And that's just the way they work. And that's great. And it's made them super successful, right? Dariece and I, we both want to build this business and have this impact and like help people to build these kind of businesses so they can also have this freedom.
Yeah.
And what we want to share with people is to build the way we like to build them is to build them in a way that like, yeah, you have to work on it because you want to be putting out content, you want to be sharing with the world, but you also, we found it to work better for us to enjoy life while you're doing it and like enjoy the entire process. And so, yeah, to your point, we had the pendulum swing from I worked 84 hours a week on oil rigs, sometimes 6 weeks straight, to I don't want to work at all. How do we hire out every possible job as soon as we have the money to do so?
Right.
To somewhere in the middle. And for us, that still gives us, I'd say we work about 20 hours a week, maybe while we're at home, maybe on average 20 hours a week. At home, we probably work more like 30. And then when we're traveling, we work more like 10. So we travel half the time. But for us, that's like a nice balance. It's
an awesome balance.
Yeah.
It's an awesome balance because I think, and I always knew this in a 9 to 5, but coming out of it, you're just that much more, I think, aware of it. Working 40 hours a week, you're just not productive that whole 8-hour day, right? Like you have those moments of productivity. And if you can, as an entrepreneur, work 4 hours, right? Cut that in half, but they're actually your super, super productive hours, and setting that up, you can just go so much further. And then you get, another 20 hours for your actual life to do whatever you want with that, right? When I was at my last job, it was about trying to give people more flexibility while at work with their schedule and location. And most people, they're not like us where they want to nomad full time. They just want more flexibility to spend with their kids or, family members or hobby, right? Whatever there. So I want to go back. So you guys doing the blog, then kind of switched into more how to do this as a lifestyle. Very, very successful in both of those for a while. The blogging world has recently kind of taken a turn. Can you kind of explain that to the audience?
Yeah, I feel like I'm turning into the guy that just like shits all over blogging all the time. So this is going to be added for all the bloggers who are watching. I'm sorry if this, I just to preface this before I go on to it. I love blogs. Yeah. I still want to read them. Yeah. I still search things plus the word blog so that I can read from a person that's hopefully a real human that's not ChatGPT writing it. So, but as a business, as the business that it was, blogging took a major turn in around 20. There's been a lot of small turns like happening because Google algorithm updates around 2020, 2019. They used to only hit people who are super spammy. They were trying to like game the system.
Okay.
And then around 2019, 2020, it would hit any blog, even if you're doing everything right. So for the audience who maybe doesn't know about SEO and stuff, Google basically gives blogs 95% of the traffic. Right. And therefore, I mean, that's on the high end, but at least 80 to 90% of traffic. And that means that it's also responsible for 80 to 9% of their income in most cases. And so overnight, Google will do these algorithm updates and they'll just kind of kick blogs out of the search results so that they get way less traffic. So that used to happen just to spammy bloggers. And then around 2019, 2020, it started to happen to any blog. You could be like doing everything right, which I like to say we were. We weren't we weren't angels, but we definitely weren't doing anything nefarious or trying to game the system. And then we got hit first in 2019, maybe like 40% or something. And that's a big deal. Like that was, at the time, it was like, you're losing a lot of money per month. Let's say at that time we were doing quite well. The blog was starting to get successful. And
overnight, and it's also out of your hands.
Out of your hands. Yeah. Nothing we can do except for like scramble and see if we can do better next time. So that started happening to bloggers at random around 2019. And then 2023 when ChatGPT came out, then Google also had to like start realizing it had to compete with ChatGPT.
Right.
So in many different ways, it had to make more money. So it put more ads in the search results. A bunch of nerdy stuff I won't get into. But basically with ChatGPT now, there's two problems. People are writing their blogs with ChatGPT. And so blogging just started to it wasn't the creative outlet that we wanted, the impactful outlet. And then on top of that, Google put those AI results in the search results. So you ask a question now, what are the best places to visit in Thailand? Or how do I find a job teaching English overseas? And instead of our blog showing up, that whole result takes up and nobody clicks the other links now. So those things combined, the algorithms, ChatGPT, and these AI overviews and other things made it so that almost all, I've not yet searched a blog's traffic because you can search them online. Almost all blogs got hit at least 70 to 95%.
Yeah.
So, luckily for us, we had already started working on this other stuff, like helping people through coaching. And so our income wasn't so reliable. We actually left blogging when we were still at the peak.
Okay. And
then, but the business model became so high risk. It went from having like an analogy. It went from like investing in the S&P 500 and like guaranteed gains that might go up and down a bit, but you're going to gain, to penny stocks, where you're like, you put in all this work, all this money, and overnight you could lose 95%. And the whole business model became really shaky. So that's why we switched off it.
Would you recommend anybody nowadays to start a blog to make money?
The key part there at the end, what you said, to make money. So do I recommend people start a blog? If you're like Dariece and I were, when we started, we did it for the love of like writing and sharing our story, if you only like writing and you don't mind that it's not the business it was, that you might not have a business in 5 years, and you just really want to share your story, then yes. As a business, and if you're thinking, what business can I start that's going to have longevity? What's the best business I can start? I would say I'd be very wary of starting a blog right now, which is sad because, like I said, I love blogs, but I think the future is more in maybe Substack, where you can write still if you're a writer, but you charge for it because you build your personal brand as the key. So now it's like building your personal brand on all the different social platforms, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, build it all out. And then you have all that diversification and you basically just build an audience around yourself. That's the best thing to do nowadays. And the blog could be a part of that. But us personally, we are spending less time on that. Our written content is email now, and that's where we kind of have that outlet. So long story short, I'd be very wary.
Sure. Yeah. One of our mutual friend that we're here to see, one of my really good friends, also a very successful blogger. And from knowing him, I got to know a lot of other bloggers like yourself over the years, excuse me. And I can definitely vouch for a lot of the things you're saying, like the Google updates, for example. It would be like, oh, there's a Google update today. My traffic is down 20% or it's up 40%. It was completely out of your control, overnight change, and kind of a crazy business, at least at that time. And I met him in 2021. So it sounds like it was in that time where maybe the updates were affecting people a bit more to, since AI came out, like you said, pretty much everybody I've talked to, it's down.
Yeah.
But I like what you said in terms of the personal brand and everything. And it seems like that's the pivot. That's what you believe. And that's the pivot you guys have kind of taken from coaching people. Instead of coaching people from mostly just building like a blog to do this lifestyle, it's other ways to do. It's more general kind of to have this lifestyle. Is that a little bit of a fair statement to say what you guys do now?
Yeah, basically we help people who are in the position that we were in. Like most of the people who we help are in jobs that they really don't like, and they want this new kind of alternative lifestyle with more freedom where you can work from anywhere. I know this sounds like cliche nowadays, right? It sounds like I'm going to be like an ad throwing up your scrolling your feed, but really like it's the life of being able to travel, live anywhere for extended periods of time, choose your own hours, have all that freedom that we really wanted when we started. And so the way we do that is by exactly how we did it, minus the blogging part. So what actually made it so that we could survive this blogging catastrophe, I'll call it, this blogging Armageddon that happened, was that we also had YouTube. We also had Instagram. We had built this personal brand. We had email subscribers. We had done this whole thing. And we had our own products. And so that's what we're showing people do. Our own products were courses, like I said, helping people start travel blogs. We had an SEO course. We had lots of content to help people live this lifestyle. And so the good thing about that is if you can build a personal brand and you have something that you can share with the world, like a coaching program, can create paid communities these days, a course, then not only do you get to live this life if you build it in the right way, but you get to have that impact and that ripple effect of like helping other people. So that's what we're about now.
Maybe we can be even more specific with people. The other day, for example, we were at a local market here and you guys took a call. I believe it was one of your clients and that he did super, super well, left the 9 to 5. And now you're one of his clients. You're actually in his course, like learning from him. I don't know if that's a really good example, maybe another one you want to bring up, but can you just kind of walk us through a little bit more of exactly how that looks?
Yeah, this is a good one. So the client was Jimmy, the financial coach. Shout out to Jimmy. So Jimmy was working at basically a regular 9 to 5 job where he was helping people kind of get their finances in order. He's a financial coach per se in his 9 to 5 job. But his wife's from Thailand and he had like no freedom, like most North Americans. He had a few weeks holidays a year. He couldn't go and see her and everything. So he contacted us when we started the very first cohort we did where we started helping people with this.
Wow.
He reached out and we got on a call with him and we heard his story. And he's like, I really want to help people invest. Like I'm helping people learn how to save and all this stuff, but I'm really passionate about the stock market. And that's what I want to do. And so we said, well, you should build a personal brand around this. And so he joined our program, and he's like a super success story, which is amazing. Obviously not everybody is like this, but he just really put in the work, and he knew what he wanted to do. And so he grew on social media. He's now way bigger than us. I think he has like 105,000 Instagram followers. But the cool thing is that he was sharing what he really loved, which was the stock market tips and how to invest in the stock market and like basically set yourself up for future, for your family, for your kids. And so, yeah, he grew that business, and he was able to, once he realized that the business had the potential, he quit his job in the US, moved to Thailand with his wife. And the reason I was on a call with him is because we also want to learn how to invest in the stock market. And so it was just this kind of perfect situation where we showed him how to build his personal brand and create a program around it. So he created his own like coaching program and course around investing. And then once he created that, we're like, well, we want to take your course now because it's exactly what we want to learn. So that's what that was all about. It was like a really cool, like ripple effect is what we like about this. You help someone else. Yep. They help so many people. It's just exciting.
That's awesome. I mean, it's a great impact to people. I'm sure it's extremely fulfilling. Kind of like what you talked about before, is it sounded like that was a bit of your purpose from getting away from just the travel blogging and initially to the other bits of it. I'm curious, what do you think is, now that you're working with these 9-to-5ers, trying to kind of get out of that and get more flexibility in their life, what do you think is one of their most common hiccups to starting, to kind of taking that first exit on the dirt path?
Easily, it's just not starting. I think these days there's so many people online saying similar things. And I mean, including us, we're adding to that amount of information online. But people are saying, quit your job and do this, quit your job and do that, quit your job and do that. And people get overwhelmed, and they just don't start at all because they're like, well, there's too many things. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. There's too many. I just won't start. And I think that's the biggest problem. And it's just choosing one that you think like aligns with you and the lifestyle you want to have. If you want to have a life, I don't know, where you sell physical products and you're just really into like, I want to create a backpack for people and I want that to be the perfect backpack and sell it to everybody, then that's your route. It doesn't have to be this coaching, personal branding route, but it's like, the problem is not picking one, not starting and not going and trying. And even if you pick the wrong one, people are scared, like, I'm going to pick the wrong one and spend all this time and go the wrong route. Just don't even think about that. Just pick one and go for it, because you're going to learn things that can be transferred into all different avenues. And so what we see is like the hardest thing people have is just the actual starting, starting to do something, to start showing up online in our case, to start posting. And it's just start, like, this sounds ChatGPT-ish now that it's coming out of my mouth, but start messy, it's just go for it.
Yeah. I think that's one of my struggles, being honest, is I have a certain idea of how I want it to be. Even for this podcast, right? I took some extra time to try to, get good equipment, and I wanted a certain quality. And I like to think of myself as a very calculated risk taker. It's like, okay, I'm going to build up, like, what can I do to make sure there's somewhat of a soft landing? But so many people I talk to, the quicker you just start, usually the quicker you're going to get to that finish line. And one of the things that changed for me was just hearing from people doing what I was already doing. Do you know Traveling with Kristen?
No, I'm bad. Are they like bloggers or something?
She was kind of original traveler or digital nomad, and then did videos of like kind of how to become a nomad type of thing.
Cool.
So she had a podcast. I got on a free call with her and just kind of asked her almost like the dumb questions, like, how do you do this? What do you do for like your phone or insurance? These things that we kind of tell ourselves are these big blockers, but we can probably answer it ourselves or chat GPT, but there's just something that, that's stopping us, in a way. And, for me, having that push out the door with my last company, I'm very, very grateful for, because I've thought about starting my own thing for a while. but it was a very comfortable job. I liked a lot of parts of it. Definitely some parts I didn't love, but it was very comfortable. And I think that's even harder than like, if you know your job sucks, it's a little bit easy for that push. But when you're in that comfort where it's not what you know you want to be doing, it's not your end all be all path. Sometimes that's where we get stuck in even more.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. And then the way I can relate to it is that Dariece was in your position. She liked her job. You know, when we left, she was a legal assistant for a law firm downtown in Calgary. She made really good money. It was the normal 9 to 5, not like mine, not shift work. And so she liked it, but she knew, like the way you said, that she wanted something new. She wanted more freedom. And I think for those people who know that and believe that, then that voice doesn't go away. Like there's some of us aren't. Like my brother, he's built businesses, he's sold them, he's worked the regular 9 to 5 for a long time as well. And he loves that. Like he loves that life, like the family, the house, all that. And that's awesome. So for him, I wouldn't even like say this, but for the people that have that voice in their heads that are, I want to have something different. I want to travel. I want freedom. That doesn't go. Because I know people who I worked with who had that voice for one thing or another. It might have been to travel. It might have been to to have made it over to Egypt one time to see the pyramids, whatever it was. And it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And so you have to use it as that push. And I'm glad Dariece, she tried to travel 5 years before we went, or 4 years, something when she was like 18. Didn't work out, but that voice stayed.
Sure.
And then she finally, when I was a little bit of a catalyst, she took action on it, which is, we have to.
And now you guys have been doing kind of this new pivot on the business for a couple of years. Was there any point like in the blogging where you were like, this is too hard, I think we're going to stop?
Yeah, probably. So I think I have some survivor bias from the blogging world because it was so long ago as well. Because when I look back, and I remember writing about it too, I was writing like, this is the best thing in the world. Like as soon as we started making some money from it and it was paying for our travels, I was saying like, this is perfect. This is awesome. This is so good. So in my memory, it was so easy, but other than having almost quit like 5 months in when nobody was coming to the site, but then that's not realistic. So I probably just don't really remember the early days when I almost quit. There's probably lots of points that I almost quit and then one that I actually did. Because what I'm finding now by the way, we've started multiple businesses. Like before this, we started another business around another one of my passions in fly fishing and built that up. Social media, website, all this stuff. We did another one on guitars when I was learning guitars. Anyway, so we'd done this a few times, and those businesses, there were times, I was like, this is tough and I feel like I might quit, or is this going to work? And I think that's natural for all businesses to have those moments. And it's to understand I think for me, it was to understand that this is the pressure that comes in the growth zone. Like when you're growing, if you absolutely hate it and it's the same as your 9 to 5, then maybe it's not right. But if you can see that you could come over a hump and you can envision the way the business could be over that hump. Like, for example, when we started doing like this coaching cohort, we were getting on sales calls with people and that was new to us. And I don't like selling myself. I just like to like share the stuff. And so that was really hard for us to kind of like get on calls, and we kind of almost got burnt out by doing so much. But I think what helped me was to think about, okay, in the future, maybe this business has people who go on the sales calls for us, to get on, they learn about people. Are they right for the program? Are they not? Or maybe we end up doing some kind of webinar. So you can see like a better version of it. So even if your business is really hard when you're going through it, if you can see that it could be the perfect thing for you, you just have to kind of have that forethought and then be like, I'm going to make my way to that point. And that could be like your North Star. Because otherwise you just quit. I mean, it's so easy to just be like, oh, this isn't going to work. And every business, unless you're trying to open up another Blockbuster Video in 2026, like if it's a logical business, every business can work. And the only ones that don't work are the ones that the founder quit.
Right.
And I always say to people, like I've said this on our blog back in the day, I say to our clients now, like the desert is littered with bodies that are found like one dune away from an oasis. Basically, people are like on this trail trying to find this oasis and they just give up, and they could have just went over one more crest and they would be there with the water and the paradise and everything. And that's business to me. So yes, again, verbose on this podcast, but yes, there was times when I thought I was going to quit, probably with the first one more than I thought, but we just got to push through.
Yeah. It's inspiring, man. It's been really cool getting to know you and Dariece over the last, we met a year ago, kind of briefly, a couple meetups, and then got to have a lot more time in Bulgaria a couple months ago and here again in Merida. And I've been very inspired by your guys' story. Thanks, buddy. This kind of knowing and just taking action combined with this adaptability, right? We kind of gloss, I mean, I could talk to you for so long, but we kind of almost glossed over the fact that you saw the writing on the wall in the blog space to a certain effect with AI and stuff coming, but you didn't hunker down and say, we're going to make this work no matter what. You adapted, right? And it was pretty similar pivot to what you were doing. You were just kind of went back even more big picture. And you're also doing good in the world. You're helping people achieve that lifestyle that they want. And I'm kind of on that journey again myself, and it's been really cool asking you and Dariece questions. You guys are so full of knowledge and just have that belief too that I can learn this. We can do this. We're going to make it work. And I've been really inspired by that. And I think a lot of people here listening have been as well. So I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on the podcast. This is really cool.
Where can people find you and Dariece if they're interested in kind of learning more about what you guys are doing and all of that?
Yeah, you guys can check us out on Instagram. Everything is at Goats on the Road. So Goats on the Road. Yeah.
Awesome.
Where we're sharing all our stuff. Yeah.
Last question.
Yes.
There's somebody out there right now listening. They're on the highway, figuratively in their path of life, right? Like it's the 9 to 5. They're not aligned with it. And they're curious about taking that exit to the dirt path, to doing things differently. Maybe literally as well. They're actually on the highway on the way to work right now, but we've talked about some of the common stopping points. Can you give maybe one extra nugget from something that you tell your clients of if they're going to get started, what is maybe the best way? How can you shine some light on that scary dirt path exit for them?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of what to say besides, I don't want to give a generic answer. I think what worked for us, I think the reason why it's worked for us on multiple different occasions, starting these types of businesses, was that we really knew we wanted this life. And we used that. We knew how important it was that we had this freedom, even before we'd seen anyone else do it. There was just something in our minds that we knew that we really wanted this life. So I think for people that are at home and you're on the highway right now and you're driving, you have to really connect to that in your mind, not by scrolling on Instagram and seeing a bunch of people doing it and then getting this kind of jealous feeling or whatever it is that humans get when they see that shit online, more by sitting down and kind of writing out what you actually want, or really solidifying your vision, not some other influencer's vision of what that life could be like. And then using that as the fuel to get you there. And so there's constant work internally when you're trying to launch something and externally. So as much as you have to, whatever your business might be that you start to try to take those steps to build that business in the physical world, 80% of it's mental. So you have to have that place in your mind that you know you're going to. And then every time stuff gets hard and speed bumps come, and they naturally will, you have to reconnect with that and just believe that you can do it. And that is generic of an answer, that part, but it's so important. Like the people that fail just didn't believe they did it. The people who succeed, so many of them, like our clients, us, we didn't have any skills. I said I left high school, like I was high school educated. I didn't have education. Family's very lower middle class. Like there was nothing about us that was talented or gifted or anything like that. It was just that we knew what we wanted so much that we just kept going for it. And we didn't let the world or ourselves tell us we couldn't do it. And I think you just got to keep connecting with that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nick,
I hope so.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
No, cheers, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Dirt Path podcast. You can find any links to support or follow today's Trailblazer in the description below. If you got this far and really liked today's episode, it would mean a lot if you could give us a 5 stars wherever you found this podcast. Subscribe and like on YouTube. And email us. Email us at thedirtpathpodcast@gmail.com to give us feedback, to give us an update of you on your own dirt path, or to send us questions, as we might be doing some Q&A episodes in the future. All right. We'll see you next time here on the Dirt Path.
Saw the exit sign flash by, a whisper in the breeze. Said take a chance, don't wonder why, just follow where it leads. Oh, the dirt path, it ain't easy, no map to guide the way. Slow and hard, sometimes uneasy, you stumble through the clay. No signs to tell you where you're bound, no traffic to obey. But every step on broken ground builds something great someday.